Matt, how you doing? I was just wondering, we just talked to Aaron for the first time since the draft, and he mentioned, he used the word not thrilled with the Jordan Love pick, but he understands it. Do you think his response to that is something that can motivate him to, play better, prove he still has it, and how have your guys interacted with him in meetings and such since the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand where he's coming from, but I think he's very motivated, and he doesn't need external motivation. He's one of the most competitive people I've ever been around, and you can see that competitiveness every time we step out on that field. So I don't think it's going to drive him any more than if we could have drafted somebody else. I just think that's who he is. That's how he's wired. That's why he's achieved the things that he's done throughout his career. And as far as like the meetings and whatnot that we've had going on, they've been outstanding. And he's been such a pro. And just to me, every time we get together, he just continues to prove why he's the leader of our team.
What's been the most fun part, and maybe fun's not the right word, but the most fun part of doing the off-season program this way, and what have you enjoyed about, maybe getting creative and done that way?
Well, I'll tell you, Rob, it's, we're doing a lot of videos and voiceovers, and we've gotten really good from a technical standpoint. And the support staff that we have has been absolutely incredible. Like Callbach, and we outsource some stuff through a guy that Nate Hackett had a prior relationship with, and our coaches have done an unbelievable job of being creative, because the majority of our installs and whatnot have been more of those voiceover type installs, and you want to keep the guys entertained, and so our coaches have done a really good job of being creative, and I think it's been going really well. And I'll tell you one thing, that you spend a lot of time, you make these videos, and they take a lot longer than you would normally just prepare to go out, go down and present in front of the team. But it's given us a great opportunity as coaches to watch yourself, and we're always constantly evaluating our players, but you do a lot of self-evaluation now in terms of how effectively do you communicate. So I think it's been a great tool for our coaches.
Coach, I'm curious, what are your expectations for Aaron and Jordan as far as the whole mentorship thing goes?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's a lot that kind of gets overblown there. I think it's more or less, Jordan going to have the ability to learn from one of the greatest to ever play the game, and he's just going to sit back, and you learn so much by watching a guy play at such a high level. And so, I don't think it's going to be, anything different than any other backup quarterback, how the approach they take from learning from the starter.
Hey, Matt, thanks for sharing some time with us today. Can you give us any idea of how noticeable the evolution of your offense will be from year one to year two? Are there things that we in the media or fans are going to notice that is going to be anything different or more stressed?
I just think it's more or less the details of what we're trying to get taught. What this offseason is really slow everything down. And to be honest with you, when I was looking at our installs from when we first got here and before we ever had a practice with any of our players, it's drastically different. It is drastically different. I think when you go through a season with your guys, you kind of find out who's good at doing what, and you find out what you really are good at doing. And it's our job as coaches to make sure that we're putting our guys in a position to be successful and really showcase what it is that they do well.
Hey, Matt, I know obviously how excited you are about Josiah and what you have in that tight end room, but how important do you think it was in getting Mercedes back and having kind of a veteran presence there with those young guys?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll tell you, Mercedes is one of the best pros, and he is a great leader on this football team. He does such a good job of setting the example. He is a pro's pro, and I still think he is playing at an extremely high level. I think he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the National Football League. And then, when given the opportunities in the pass game, he produced for us. I know we didn't target him a bunch, but he made some critical plays throughout the course of the season. There was a touchdown versus the Giants. There was a big pass that we had, versus Detroit when we were at home. A big explosive play. There were a couple screens we threw to him, and he consistently performed. And so you can never have enough guys like Mercedes Lewis on your football team.
Yeah, Matt, I just was wondering if you could give us an assessment of just how Jerry Gray and Jason Vrabel are settling into, their spots as the head of those position groups at this stage of the off season.
Yeah, so I've had the ability to really sit in a lot of our guys' meetings, and I've been super impressed with Jerry. I'm really both those guys, but I'll start with Jerry first. Obviously he was a hell of a player, former first-round pick, multiple Pro Bowls, and then when you combine his coaching experience with that, I think he's just a tremendous resource for our defensive staff. He's been in a lot of different systems. He's been a coordinator, so he sees it through that coordinator eyes and understands how all 11 work together. And I think he's done such a good job of connecting with our players in a short period of time that they've had a chance to sit down and talk. And I think, I'm really excited about just what he brings not only to that room, but our entire football team. And then, Jason Vrabel, I think he's done an outstanding job. Like I said, I've sat in a lot of meetings. He's still well prepared. This guy watches as much tape as probably as anybody I've ever been around. And he always has just examples for the guys to help teach and show these guys what it is we're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, Coach, the inside linebacker defensive line aspect of your defense, a lot of people say that was where the problem was in the running game. Tell me about where you expect upgrades on that defensive front three, and how about inside linebacker? Give us your opinion on where you are right now at that aspect.
Yeah, no, I think that, to me, some of the problems occurred, just with our run game in terms of just getting out of the gap. And so I think our guys are working hard at understanding where they fit within each play, each concept. And we know it takes all 11, so it's not just on the defensive line, it's not just on the linebackers, but our guys have got to do a great job of just being sound, doing their responsibility. And then, with the linebacker position, really, really fortunate to get a guy, especially considering the circumstances of this offseason, get a guy that's been in this system in Christian Kirksey. I've been super impressed with him. You can tell he's a pro. He knows what's going on already, and we've only been meeting for a couple of weeks, so it'll be fun to get him and get all these guys back in the building and just work on the camaraderie, because I think you just look at some of the success that we had this past season. I think a lot of it had to do with how connected our team was, and so that's the one thing that why we're confident that we want to get back together. We can continue to build upon that.
Matt, I was just wondering, coming off of Aaron mentioning the verbiage in the offense, things really haven't changed in that regard. Just wondering how the current situation presents challenges if you're trying to expand on or install a hurry-up offense, which is something you had spoken about.
Yeah, for the most part, I would say the majority of our terminology has been pretty much the same. There are some tweaks that we've made here and there. I think it's just more about our process, how we want to go about installing a no huddle offense, the tempos, and we'll probably simplify that quite a bit. But it's just, I'll be honest with you, man. It's been great having these Zoom meetings, especially it's allowed myself, Hackett, Getzy, and Aaron to have a lot of one-on-ones as well, which, we definitely value his input into what we're doing because, like I've always told you guys, definitely want him to feel comfortable with whatever it is we're asking him to do.
Hi, Matt. How much advanced contingency planning can you do as the end of the month nears and June starts to roll around and you're hoping to get your players back on the field, but you're not exactly sure what that is going to look like? How much planning can you do about what that next phase of the offseason might look like?
Yeah. Holy cow, man, we're having some issues. That's one of those deals that I just think we're constantly communicating as a staff in terms of how to approach whatever phase is next. But my mindset is just kind of, and I should say our mindset has been more or less we're going to keep operating in this virtual space until told otherwise. And, yeah, will we have a plan? If things change, absolutely. But it's going to be more or less those plans will kind of come together once we get clear direction.
Hey, Matt, thanks so much for taking the time today. I'm just curious if you've had any chance to kind of reflect back on your first year as head coach of the NFL, and if so, maybe what's the biggest thing that you've learned in that first year? And then kind of as a follow-up from your time stepping in the door and meeting with the team from the first point until now, is there a player that's really stood out to you who's maybe made the most improvement?
Well, I think you're constantly learning, every day in this job. And we're always just trying to, there's been a lot of reflection in how we can handle things, better to the best of our ability. In those conversations, we constantly have after action reports where we get together as a staff and talk about what we like about certain things and, what we learned from whatever phase we're in or whatever it is we're doing, and then the adjustments that we want to make moving forward. And can you repeat that second part of your question?
Yeah, just from the moment that you kind of stepped in the door and met with the team from the first point until now, is there a player that's really shown the most improvement to you over that time frame?
I can't say anybody in particular stands out. I think the majority of our guys have shown a lot of improvement. So, and that's going to be the key. That's going to be a key moving forward for us to get that, the next step is these guys are going to have to continue to put their best foot forward, because we do know this, that at some point in time, this will all end and we will be back together, and we just got to make sure that everybody understands the importance of maximizing the time that they have right now, and that when we are ready to go, that we can hit the ground running.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for your patience this afternoon on with all of us, by the way. What's the best thing Jordan Love to do between now and when you see him physically, when you guys get to work it out that way?
Yeah, I just think it's more or less making sure he's got the mental side of our offense down to the best of his ability. And, I think that's always a challenge for whether you're playing quarterback or whatever position you're playing, is a lot of guys, they learn through those reps, whether they're good or bad. And so it's just making sure he gets the most out of those meetings, and then he's got to go work at it on his own.
Hey, Matt, how did you approach, I guess, the first meeting, if you will? Were you able to do a team meeting with all the windows up, or how did you try to communicate your first messaging of resetting 2020 with the guys in this way, or do you think you just have to kind of wait to a degree?
No, we jumped on a Zoom call. It surprisingly, I didn't really know what to expect, especially when you get all the players on there plus the coaches and support staff. I mean, we were close to 100 people on there almost. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but you never quite know what to expect. But I thought it went well. It wasn't too long. I think it was like 10 or 12 minutes, and just really tried to highlight what exactly the expectations were and the objectives of this virtual offseason. And then we followed up those team meetings with pre-recorded team meetings that we pushed to their iPads.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for being patient with all this today. When you look at entering your second year as a head coach, are you, A, really happy that you're not a first-year head coach during the pandemic? And then, B, I know Mike Tomlin of the Steelers had mentioned he doesn't think any facilities league-wide should open up until they all can. Do you think there's going to be a point with this pandemic where we have to open up some and the others are going to have to find a different city to play in or practice in if their cities or municipalities are not yet ready?
Yeah, Dave, I really don't know the answer to that question in terms of I do think there's a competitive advantage if some teams are allowed to go in and others aren't. So I would think that, who knows how they're going to rule or what people are going to have to do, but that's just kind of my mindset with it.
How about the luxury of not being in your first year? I know some.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's critical. Just having the guys understand what we're all about, and we've got the majority of our team returning, and so they understand the expectations. Kind of what it takes, what they can expect from myself, from our other coaches, what they should expect from each other. They know how we practice. I mean, there's just so many advantages to having that first year under our belt. And now we understand that also going into year two, that especially with how we performed in year one, for the most part, there's going to be some heavy expectations. And we've all got to be ready to embrace those and make sure, again, that we're doing everything in our power to get better each and every day so we can, live up to those.
I was just wondering, without the rookie minicamp that y'all had in previous years, how difficult is it going to be for undrafted free agents this year to make the team, and how much of a lost opportunity is it for teams to kind of get a look at those guys?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just you're going to have a much less exposure to these guys in your system. So do I think it's going to be tougher? Yeah, I do think it'll be an adjustment. These guys are going to have to come in again and learn as much as they can throughout the virtual off season, be in the best shape they possibly can, that when they do get their opportunities, that they maximize those. But yeah, this is so similar to the year of the lockout in regards to 4 guys in that situation.
Hi, Matt. So have you had long discussions with Brian or Mark about what's the minimum amount of practices you need to get the team ready for a game against the Cardinals or any other scenarios? And I'd imagine the toughest thing this spring is making sure, your athletes are hitting their targets physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I will say this. Our guys have done a great job of being in communication with Gizzy and our strength staff. Now, the one, like a lot of these teams out there, we're not monitoring the physical workouts. All the things that our guys are getting credit for right now is the classroom stuff. So all our meetings, being in there, being on time, attending those, that's what they're getting credit for. So there is an onus on the player in terms of being a professional, and you got to put the work in. And but I've been really, really pleased with the communication that's been going on, that's been taking place with Giz and the other strength coaches. And I just think, as far as getting your team ready to play, I think a lot of it is we're going to have a good method to evaluate these guys when they do come back, because the last thing you want to do as a coach or anybody else is push these guys too hard too fast, because that's typically when the injuries occur. So we've got to be really mindful of how we're going to approach that and be ready to adjust to whatever shape our guys come back into.
Matt, I was just curious. We haven't heard much. Maybe that's just because we haven't asked you. But what are your early impressions of Reggie Begelton, both what you have in a player and what you've been able to glean from him by your discussions with him virtually?
Well, the one thing that really stands out is you can tell he is super invested. He's done a great job at picking up everything that we've thrown at him. He does a great job. We've been quizzing these guys quite a bit, and he is, routinely at the top. So I've been just super impressed with his approach, and just excited to see him and see what he's got to offer on the field.
Hey, Matt. So the preseason is coming up quickly, so I was curious, are you planning on having fans in the stands for those games?
You know what? I have not really put a whole lot of thought into it, to be honest with you. Do I think it would be odd without fans? I do, but, that might be the circumstances that we're faced, and whatever it is, we'll embrace it. I'm hoping they're there, but if they're not, then we'll just embrace it.
Hey, Matt. The league has a number of minority coaching fellowships on a shorter-term basis, not a year-long position. Why did you decide to create a year-long position, and why are you bringing in Ravel to be the first person to fill that position?
Yeah, so, Mark came to me with this a while ago and asked me if that's something we'd be interested in doing. I said, heck yeah. And I'm sure many of you know I go way back with Ravel. Matter of fact, he and I were roommates my last year playing in Saginaw Valley. He was my roommate for all 3 years that we were together on the road. So I've had a long relationship with him. I've always thought a lot about him, not only as a player, but as a person, first and foremost. And he's been pretty successful outside of the football world, and I just think he's got such a dynamic personality. I think he's an unbelievable communicator, and he played 7 years in the National Football League. So I just thought that he's been a guy that I've been trying to get into the coaching business for a while, and he finally thought the timing was right for him and his family. So I'm just really excited to get him back up to Green Bay. I know they're going to be moving up here in about a month. They've already got a house, and they're ecstatic.
Yeah, another coaching step on Matt. What's Luke's new role of passing game coordinator in terms of the construct of what you and the people do? And then with that, how does it affect quarterback coaching roles? If you could kind of break down that promotion and those roles.
Yeah, no, it's just something that you do that when people put in the time, the effort, the energy, and you want to reward good work. And as far as like how we interact, I don't think it's going to have a big impact. But Luke, he designed most of our third down packages, and I think he's got a really good grasp of what we're trying to get accomplished. So I just thought it was the right time for that natural progression.